I was just the right age for Transformers in 1984. Two of my favorite things at the time were robots and aliens, and the Transformers were both. And my favorite Transformer of them all was the Decepticon triple changer Astro Train. Robot and alien and locomotive and space shuttle. He also had a cool reverb to his voice. In any episode where the Decepticon shenanigans took them into outer space, Astro Train was mandatory. He also had a solid role in the movie, helping the Decepticons withdraw from their failed attack on Metroplex. Whenever some new Transformers-related property or toy line comes out, I always give it a look. I don't always stick with it, but like I said, I always give it a look. So when Renegade Studios released the Transformers RPG as a follow-on to their other Hasbro-related properties, I picked up the PDF and gave it a thorough read, and then found a game looking for a spare player. So for my first try with this game, I got to play as one of the PCs rather than the narrator. The GM was fairly open-ended with the build options, so I decided to make something inspired by Astro Train, although technically I had to be a good guy. Mine was named Zundap, which I'll explain later. When you make a character in Transformers RPG, you technically start by assigning 12 points into one of 4 essences, which are like the system ability scores. You've got strength, speed, smarts, and social, quite alliterative. However, it makes more sense to start with the other steps, since those will give you a couple of essence freebies to start with and some idea of where your build is headed. So you get a minimum of 1 influence. You can take more than 1, but for each one beyond the first, you also have to take a hang-up, which is like a little roleplay disadvantage. An influence is your Transformer's background prior to joining the battle against the Decepticons, and it gives you a conditional bonus to certain activities. I made Zundap an experiment and gave him the bonus hardpoint, which is kind of like an inventory spot for an item the Transformer can always access. I also took Scavenger, which gave Zundap an edge on streetwise checks. I'll explain edge in a bit. With that extra influence, I decided to take a hang-up and chose Earth Spoiled. I decided that Zundap was obsessed with Earth objects that had irregular symmetry. After your influence, you get to choose one origin. This determines your alt mode, its associated movement type, starting health, 1 bonus point of essence, and usually one other unique little bonus. One of Zundap's alt modes was going to be a helicopter, specifically a Cayman Husky. I chose the support origin, which gave Zundap an aerial speed of 30, 2 weapon hardpoints, and the ability to ram, which doesn't actually make much sense for a helicopter. After your origin, you pick a role, and for Zundap I went straight for the Mode Master and chose a focus of a triple changer. Mode Masters can do neat partial transformation tricks, quick mode changes, and as a triple changer, Zundap got another vehicle mode, for which I chose the Zundap Janus. That's where the name came from. After that, I metered out 3 points to strength, 3 to speed, 3 to smarts, 3 to social, and took ranks and specializations with their associated skills. I grabbed the starter gear, and Zundap was all set to go. From there I got my first impression of the Transformers RPG and the Essence 20 system. Essence 20 was first used for the G.I. Joe RPG and has since been expanded to other Hasbro properties like My Little Pony and Power Rangers. It is a D20 plus skill die system. When you make a check, you roll a D20 and add to it a die associated with how many ranks you have in a skill. 1 rank you flip a coin, 2 you get a D4, then a D6, etc. all the way up to 6 ranks with a D12. It's possible to roll even higher sets of dice under certain circumstances. Beat the target number with your total, you succeed. Fall under, you fail. Beat the target and roll the max on your skill die and you get a critical, which can activate things like extra damage or status effects. To mix things up, E20 has edges and snags, which are just like advantage and disadvantage in D&D. You roll 2 D20s and take the higher of the 2 or the lower of the 2 respectively. Circumstances can also produce upshifts and downshifts. Upshifts raise the type of die you roll with your skill, downshifts drop the type of die. For example, if you take aim with a ranged weapon, you get an upshift on your attack roll. There's really no cases where you get to add or subtract a fixed number. Every check is just adding 1 die to another. The type of die just changes. When you use a skill on another character or NPC, the difficulty of your roll is based on how many points have been assigned to their appropriate essence. So let's say you want to convince Rumble that he's hallucinating. You'd roll a d20 and roll your deception skill die, and then add them together and compare them against Rumble's cleverness defense. We haven't talked about defenses yet, have we? So those points you put in your essences don't just give you skill ranks. Each essence also has an associated defense. Add 10 to your strength essence, and that's your toughness defense. 10 to your speed, that's your evasion. Smart boosts willpower defense, and social boosts your cleverness defense. And it's here that my GM and I started to notice some issues with the system. See, most ranged and melee attacks give the defender the option to choose whether to use their toughness or their evasion defense, with some exceptions. And no matter how you spend your skill ranks in a given essence, another point in the essence boosts the defense. This means that defenses will almost always out-advance attack dice in most builds. So your tanky tank and your shooty glass cannon who front-loaded strength or speed are going to be that much harder to hit. And if anyone has armor, that difficulty keeps going up. So let's look at what is supposed to be a low-level stat block opponent from the back of the book, Decepticon Soldier, who was built using the same rules as a PC. Toughness 14. That means to have a 50-50 chance of hitting the Decepticon soldier, a brand new PC will need to invest 3 ranks in an attack skill of some kind. This doesn't sound so bad at first, but as you move along in your level 1 adventure, you're going to run into some named Decepticons, and your odds of landing a hit starts to drop off. In my game, my fellow players and I spent round after round stacking up aim actions and taking shot after shot, and getting miss after miss, and our opponents weren't doing much better against us. We also discovered that one essence score clearly beats out all others in combat: speed. So not only does speed boost your evasion defense, every point of speed beyond the second grants you a small free action every single turn. These include 2 very important options: an aim free action, which gives you an upshift on a ranged attack, and a pushing yourself action, which gives you another square of movement. Speed Essence is the only essence that gives you an important freebie like this. On top of that, Initiative is a skill that falls under Speed, making your fast character potentially even faster. Does Strength Essence grant you more health? No, nor higher player levels. You have to specifically invest in the conditioning skill under Strength to get more health. This takes away from points you could invest in a Strength Essence attack skill. It would be neat if each of the other Essence columns had their own freebie of some kind, but for now, it's only Speed. I also feel that the rules could provide some better guidelines about what conditions call for an edge or snag versus an upshift or downshift. There are specific examples, but no broader guidelines for assessing unique situations that might call for one of these game mechanics. One thing I've also come to appreciate in an RPG system is a simplified stat block for cannon fodder opponents. Star Wars has it with the minion class opponents. Dungeon Crawl Classics has an easy stat block system that makes it a snap to add opponents to a VTT system like Foundry. But every threat in Transformers has the same full stat block that a similarly leveled character would. Lastly, there's some quirks with distance measurements. The game uses feet, and the normal range for a Cybertronian pistol-sized weapon in this game is 25 feet, max range is 80 feet if you roll with a snag. These things are the size of bazookas and you're only going to give them a range of 80 feet? Just skip the measurement system entirely and just use squares. It'll save you an extra step when you sell in metric markets. The book itself is $55 US. I find this a little steep for 290 pages, which is shorter than a D&D player's handbook and significantly shorter than a Star Wars core rulebook. Color artwork is excellent though. Honestly, this seems to be an area where no particular publisher is suffering. Art in Transformers looks like to be a mix of official Hasbro art, some original art, and images drawn from Image, IDW, and other comic tie-in lines. There's no rules within for player combiners or animal monster characters. The rules supplement's gotta sell, I suppose. The gear section really needs some tables. Every weapon and mod has a bulleted list of stats under its narrative description, which could be easily compressed to a series of tables for quick reference. Instead, you have to go through one bulleted entry after another if you want to find a weapon with a particular option or effect. Gear customization is very good though, giving you the chance to make exactly the sort of weapons you see in the cartoons. And if you've ever read the tech spec cards for Transformer, you know they go into details about special attacks, weapons, and training, and the weapon mods give you a great way to represent that. There is a Foundry VTT module for Transformers and other Essence 20 games made by a small group of contributors organized on a Discord channel. I'll put the link to its GitHub page in the description and you can find the manifest URL there. The GM and I found it quite streamlined, automatically applying appropriate advances as characters gain levels. Stat tracking is easy if you know the game, and there's even an option to lock a character sheet to keep from applying changes accidentally. I'd like to see that option in other modules. It's a little light on thematic style right now compared to some other Foundry VTT modules I've played with curved outlines around the stat sections. It's clear and functional though. There's a role dialog box that allows you to apply all the conditional effects and even lets you use your energon or story points quickly. And if you run into any bugs, they take reports and logs in their unofficial Discord. So I don't see myself running Transformers with my game group in the future. I do like having the book, and it was fun hanging out with other Transformers fans for a bit for a game on Discord. If you have an experience of your own you'd like to share, let me know in the comments. And with that, I wish you happy gaming and lights out in the basement.